Hi folks, it's good to be with you. Love to everybody out there. I'm just making a quick video and hope everybody's okay. You can get me on Facebook, you can get me on Twitter, you can get me on my website, jasonburnspreacher.com. And I'm just making a quick video because I just feel it's needed to say, and I just think what I'm about to say is very, very serious. Very, very serious. And I just feel I don't like bullies and I don't like being bullied. So I'm just going to say it as it is, and yeah. So first things first, monetization. YouTube. I have had videos that have been monetized, and for years I've been making videos on YouTube. Never earned a penny, but last 6 months I thought, well, I need some money, so why not? So I monetized a few videos, and they were earning me a few decent pounds a month. And then one day, a couple of days ago, my monetization stopped by YouTube. YouTube didn't give any reason, but it coincided with the publication over the last few weeks of some books that I wrote concerning Tommy Robinson, the defending of Tommy Robinson's free speech, and also some controversial videos where I blast the political establishment for destroying democracy. And so I think YouTube have kind of sent a shot across my bowels as to say, look, you speak out anymore, and this is what we can do, etc. So I just want to say that the social media giants that I promote peace, I promote love, I promote unity, I promote free speech. I'll defend anybody's right to have free speech so long as they don't incite violence towards people. So I encourage free speech, but it seems because I'm becoming more and more well known through other social media platforms. I've been interviewed by DCCI, filmed by Socko Films. It looks, I must be getting more traction and more notice especially when I write booklets on Jacob Rees-Mogg, and I must be getting more traction by the establishment politically. Notice, not that I've wanted that at all, because I'm not political. I'm a preacher of the gospel, and I just want to say that social media giants that encourage this kind of behaviour, that you're doing great harm to democracy, because there are many, many amazing people who I disagree with, greatly disagree with, but there's so many amazing people out there who have a strong political voice, and you're silencing them by taking away the monetization and taking away their PayPal or taking away whatever accounts and things. And I just think that in the end, you're only going to promote more hatred. You're only going to promote more division, because it's only in dialogue and discussion that we can find out the truth. And that which is the truth will win, because it will win by reason and evidence. And if you silence people by taking away their way to live, like for example taking away Tommy Robinson's way to live, taking away his Twitter account, taking away his PayPal account, etc. If you silence people like that, then it only does more harm to democracy. In fact, it does great harm to democracy, because it pushes people on the edge and creates more extremist views and more extremist behaviour, rather than bring people in to be an inclusive community, by taking away people's free speech, by threatening people like you've threatened me. It is basically you alienate people from the political process, and it's not healthy. So I think you really need to rethink your strategy on how to defeat whatever you want to defeat. It might be more wise to encourage more dialogue and more discussion, rather than actually take people's livelihood and people's free speech away. Second thing I want to say is concerning the issue with Brexit. I think what's happened there is absolutely shambolical. It's an absolute disgrace, and I think I think that what has happened there is basically a stitch-up that the British people have voted to leave, and the parliamentarians, the vast majority there, have basically stitched up the British people. But I don't think the Parliament and the European Parliament and the parliamentarians in the UK, I don't think they really fully understand the full weight of what they're doing, because they live in this kind of political bubble and they're not really aware of the anger on the street. There's a lot of anger going on the streets of the UK at the moment, and that anger is rising and rising, and it eventually at some point it will explode. And the anger is that 17.5 million people voted to leave. They knew what they were voting for. David Cameron said that this is a decision of a lifetime. What you say, we will put into practice. The both Conservative and Labour put it in their manifesto that they said that will implement the referendum and they will take us out of Europe. But the Conservative Party and the Labour Party have gone renegade on the manifesto and basically stitched up the British people with this kind of fiasco that they, in their minds, think is going to wear down people, so that they'll just say, well, forget about Brexit, we'll renege on Article 50 and we'll just go back to square one the way we were in Europe. And basically, what you need to know as parliamentarians is that you've done irreparable damage to the British democracy. That the damage that you've done now, unless on the when you said you'd leave on the 29th of March, unless you leave on the 29th, the damage that you've done, and we know that you don't want to leave, and we know that you put in place to take it to April, but then you're going to move it from April to just get in the end, go back in Europe. You need to know that the damage that you've done to democracy, to British democracy, is irreparable. What you've done, you've basically ripped the heart of British democracy apart. That's basically what you've done. And all the language that you're talking about, oh, we'll have a second referendum, we'll do Parliament taking control of the government and coming up with different views and what to do. Basically, from many millions of people, it looks farcical. It not only looks farcical, it looks arrogant. And many people will never ever trust the Labour Party or the Conservative Party ever again. And I'm talking millions of people. There will always be hung parliaments in Parliament. There will not be majorities like we used to have, because the trust of the British establishment is now at an all-time low. The only way forward would be proportional representation. Unless we had that, and even if we had that, we'd still be in this morass of consensus politics rather than having a government with a majority, and we'll never be able to make decisions like we used to do. It will always be a complete utter mess. And in that mess, in that milieu of mess, there will be this stoking of anger and division and hatred and anger towards the British establishment. And there will be dangers in coming years if the economy doesn't go well, if the European economy doesn't go well. There will be dangers of insurrection, a serious insurrection on the streets, and even pushing to civil war. Because I don't think you've realised that you've basically ripped the very heart of British democracy, basically. Now, it's not me that's saying that. There are some eminent reporters, eminent political pundits that have made it clear that they're angry, that this is serious stuff. So it's not just me being sensationalist. There are people that have said that they're absolutely disgusted with this. And I just want to say that unless you as parliamentarians respect the 17.5 million people, unless you come out of Europe and at least give that referendum vote a chance to work, unless you do that, then unfortunately Britain will be in the political wilderness for many, many years, and you put the British nation in danger of insurrection, in danger of civil war in years to come, because the bitterness that and the anger that is now growing is only going to grow more and more and fester, and eventually, whether it be now or in 10 years' time, if there's no political resolution, it will fester into civil war. And that's what you've created. You created the seeds of the destruction of British national life. British national life. And I don't see a way back unless you have the humility to realize this sanctimonious kind of political correct, neo-Marxist identity, politics, politician, Sarah, unless that has a humility and realize that there are many people that don't agree with this, don't agree with your way of thinking, don't agree with your kind of politics, that the vast majority of British people have common sense and want common sense in their nation. Unless you come to some humility and really have consensus politics, where you actually listen to the majority of people rather than concoct this fiasco pantomime of where you're pretending as parliamentarians, where you're trying to get some kind of political resolution of different views, where the reality is you're missing the biggest bulk of you, the 17.5 million people that you're just throwing under the bus. Unless you have some humility and realize that this is absolute disgrace, then I'm sorry to say that this nation, the funeral of this nation, it will be on the 29th of March. It will be a funeral. It will not be a celebration of freedom, but it will be a funeral. It will be a funeral not only of Western democracy in Britain, but it will be a funeral of democracy in the whole Western Hemisphere. And sad to say, not only Britain, but the West is heading for serious civil war and insurrection, because our governments, the British government and parliamentarians, are guilty. They're seriously guilty of sedition. Europe is guilty of sedition. Undermining the will of the British people is sedition. Undermining the will of the British people by Parliament is sedition. It is serious. You are seditious. And if you're seditious and you're undermining the will of the British people, then there comes a time when a leader could come along and say, wait a minute, we have the legal right to implement Brexit. Your army, your parliament doesn't have any right. We'll have our army and our parliament, and we'll put the Brexit decision into place. Because they will have the legal right, because they are doing what the mandate of the British people did. So you're creating a scenario of civil war in the next 10 years, because you're taking away the political rights of the majority of people in a seditious way, and you're really destroying democracy and creating a kind of neo-communist, dogmatic, neo-Marxist, political correct, tyrannical governments in Europe and in Britain. That's not going to hold the line, because the hatred and anger that you've created now is going to grow and grow and grow and grow, because you never provided free speech, you never provided true political freedom for the populace. Instead, you were dogmatic, arrogant, and pharisaical in your implementation. Just look at France. Look at the mess that's happened there. And you're going to create great civil unrest in the next 10 years. God bless you.